Hi, welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable, where we discuss all topics real estate. I'm Nick Ahrens.
Hey, and I'm Steve Crowley.
I'm Darren Shepard.
And I'm Jimmy Reed, and we're your hosts.
Hi, welcome to Real Estate Roundtable, and we talk about everything real estate. I'm Jimmy Reed. I'm the team leader here at the Reed team, and I'm with Steve Crowley. He's one of my sales partners. And this week we're talking about, hey, is it a good time to buy or should I just keep renting? Right? So that's coming up quite a bit, isn't it, Steve?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking to a lot of people. You talk to a lot of people a week. On average, I think we said you're talking to about 400 people a week.
I'd say that's
going back
right.
about right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're a Zillow Flex team. If you guys don't know what that is, basically we're in a joint venture with Zillow, and just a lot of our good reviews over the years have helped us kind of gain that contract. So it's a great opportunity for a lot of our agents. But what it does is it puts us in touch with a lot of consumers on a daily basis. And so we kind of, you know, nurture them for a long time. We dance around these conversations.
Right.
So Zillow, Google, we're the #1 rated Google team in South Orange County. So we get a lot of questions, you know, from Google. People get on our website, open houses, you name it. But when it comes to the question on, Steve, you know, should I rent? You know, should I continue renting or should I buy? Let me just start with this. What do you think most people's gut feeling is at first? Or most people, they're emotional. What are they feeling? Are they more fearful of buying and just feel more secure renting? What do you think it is?
Well, I think a lot of it is, well, first of all, it's the American dream. I mean, people want to own a home.
Right.
You know, they're fearful of never being able to own a home.
Right.
But then they're also fearful about the idea of it and how do I make that transition, or how do I get out of a rental and into a purchase?
Right. Yeah.
And there's that uncertainty in that, right. You know, and then they're hearing just so many different, you know, getting so much different input from so many different sources, and it just gets confusing.
Right. I think like anything else over the years that I think that have helped me in my business is realizing that it's the data that moves people. It's the accurate data that moves people. You know, first opinions have never really helped, and I have never found that chapter in the Bible, but
First opinions.
Yeah. But the thing is, when it comes to real estate, that answer is not the same for everybody. Should I rent? Should I buy? If you're watching this and you're thinking, yeah, that's me, or maybe I'm a realtor and you're listening and you're helping people, you're trying to help them, and you're just getting caught up with this dilemma, and you're like, really, it's up to you. Well, yes and no as a consumer. The consumer is only going to be as educated as you educate them with the proper data, with the proper information. And one of the data points that you and I were just talking about was, hey, where are you getting your data? You know, and how is that data sourced? And what does the data represent? For example, if you went on to the HUD website right now and you did a rental survey for the median size, was it the median size home?
Yeah, it was a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, maybe
okay.
A couple different.
Yeah, 2-bedroom. Yeah. In fact, do you have that data right now? Why don't you grab that if you don't mind real quick, Steve? Yeah. So the one we were just looking at from the HUD was on what makeup, what size of a home?
So I pulled the one for 2-bedroom.
Okay, 2-bedroom, right?
And it was for last year or this year.
From the HUD website.
It was $2,498.
Okay, so $2,500 that was on the HUD website. What they're saying what the average was?
Yep.
And for the average for where?
And that's for Orange County.
Okay.
For all of Orange County.
So $2,500.
Yeah.
Let me say it like this.
Yeah.
So $2,500 or $30,000 a year for a 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
Almost $100,000 of invested housing on the consumer's part in all of Orange County on average over a 3-year period.
Correct.
6 figures.
Yeah.
That's why people are having a hard time saving enough money to be able to get in to purchase their own home. Yeah. That's a 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right? Okay. All right. So, but what I really wanted to illustrate is where you get your data from. Okay. So that's HUD.
Yes.
So that is not a transactional website. That is who are currently in leases, and that's not annualized, that's not updated based on transactions. So that doesn't help you understand what they're actually getting.
Correct.
So where do we get that? How do we get the annual updated as realtors? How do we get the accurate? We call them comps. Sometimes if you're a consumer listening or you're a professional, we call them, hey, would you comp that out? Hey, can you give me a rental survey?
Yeah.
Well, we get that from the transactions from the MLS.
Exactly.
I don't know why the HUD doesn't, but you know what they do is look at historical data.
Right.
That's all they do.
Right.
And then it's all blended together.
Right. So it could be somebody that was in a rental for 10 years.
Right.
And
Exactly
that's,
right.
They're just taking that number, and the landlord hasn't raised the rents. And
Right. Or it was
that's all calculated in there.
Or they don't know because the landlord isn't required to upload every time they increase the rents.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
You know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right?
Right.
Okay. So it was $2,500 for a 2-bedroom in all of Orange County was the median price, right?
Yes. And that's including condos and single-family homes all combined.
2 bedrooms.
Yep.
But that's good. Okay,
Yep.
so now we went to the MLS.
Yep.
And the MLS showed for the same year, 2002, for all of Orange County, what?
$3,200.
$3,200.
That's for a condo.
That's just for condos.
For a single-family
So
home.
on average, you're talking about 3,400 to 3,500.
Exactly.
Because there's going to be more transactions on the condo side at 2-bedroom. So it's about 3,400. Let's even just keep it at 32. That's over a 20% increase over what HUD has.
Yes.
Why? Again, it's really important to have the distinction that the MLS tracks current transactions, so it's putting a timestamp every year, so you're able to get the correct trajectory of the rent increases across Orange County.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. I mean, we're tracking what is actually closed that year.
Right.
That's what they actually rented it for that year.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Versus historical data from 10, 15 years ago. And I know because we just listed some apartments, me and my production partner, Lel here, we just listed 2 different apartment complexes in Orange County, and they have tenants that have been there, I think, since Moses was walking there, and they're way outdated on the rents, and it's just crazy, That's a whole nother story for another podcast, but the reality is this, is that if you're going off of historical data instead of the comps off of the MLS, it's not going to show the right trajectory. So should I buy? Is it should I stay in my rental? Should I buy? Well, here's really the first thing that I ask people. Do you plan on staying in the area?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Are you going to move?
Yeah.
Right? Are you going to move?
Yeah, if you're moving in 6 months or a year or even, a year and a half, something like that, then maybe it isn't the right time to be buying a home.
But then I have a follow-up question. If you and I were chatting, Steve, and you're like, hey, Jimmy, I'm not sure. I'd be like, well, Steve, okay, so you might be moving and taking a job back in, Reston, Virginia. Okay. What are the odds you're going to come back? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have family here? What would bring you back? And do you want to be here? And hypothetically, I hear all the time, my wife loves the weather. I don't think she's going to want to be there for very long.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so are you going to do a residency there? What's it look like? Yeah. Because here's why. Here's what I'm getting at. It's really hard to leave this market, okay? And if you're some of my clients that I'm not going to say your name out loud, I promise you on this podcast, that I've moved you out of the market and moved you back, and I'm like, you guys, are you sure? And then you did it, and instead of just renting the place out after you leave and then coming back, I get it. I get it. You can't stand the thought of someone living in your home. But you know what? We can always repaint it, do the flooring, change out the toilets. We can make it perfect again. At one point, it's likely that someone lived in the home that you bought, so we can make it that way again. But at least what you do is you keep the home. Even if I'm going to be here for a year and a half, Steve, you might be a good candidate based on your wife. She wants to come back. Yeah. So, or
like
even
you said, everybody's circumstances are different.
Or even if you said, no, I think we're out of here, Jimmy. I'm like, okay, well, great. But here's the thing. If you're going to spend on average, right, $3,200, right, or upwards of $40,000 a month, a year for rent, You sure you want to do that? Or do
Yeah.
you want a year and a half? I mean, that's $65,000.
Exactly.
Are you sure you don't want to just go ahead and invest that into some real estate and then turn it into a rental when you leave?
Yeah.
I mean, $65,000 is a lot of money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So think about that. That might, and you know what? I guess if you're listening right now, I'd want to encourage you with this. There's no canned answer for everybody. It's a conversation.
Exactly.
You have to really look at that, because then we're looking at, okay, let's look at the down payment. Let's look at what you would have to charge in rent to cover your mortgage and all of that good stuff.
Absolutely.
And you're like, well, Jimmy, I'm not making any income off of it. Well, I might argue with you on that one, right? Because if you're making, if you're going negative and having to contribute $50 a month, or you're only making $50 a month, I can promise you should have a conversation with your CPA.
Yeah.
And what does that look like when you're making $150,000 a year, as far as how much more of your current income you're going to keep versus paying taxes on it?
And they're paying down the mortgage.
And the renter's paying down the mortgage. But at the end of the day, if I have a bunch of income property that I'm using from a depreciation standpoint and a write-off standpoint, and it's helping me keep a lot more of my current income, I'm thinking I'm doing it all day long. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would have that conversation with your CPA. I'm not giving financial advice here by any means. We're being hypothetical.
Yeah.
But I'm not being hypothetical when I tell you to talk to your CPA, for sure,
Yeah.
100%. If you don't know me, just DM me, message me, or whatever. Come in the office here, and I'll give you a good referral. So back to there's all these variables, right? Yeah. You might be moving, right? I don't know if I can afford what I really, really want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you're going to live here, it really comes down to the question of, do you really think with a trending upward? I mean, you got a lot of notes here. I wish the rest of the people listening and watching could see, because it looks like you did a lot of research.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at this, it's astronomical. Why don't you just share some of the data on some of what you researched there, Steve?
Well, for example, I was looking at even the low numbers that HUD even came out with. In this data, they put a projection of what they're anticipating the rents to go to next year, and they're looking at 9.3% increase.
I can guarantee you most people's income is not increasing.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And this is not let me share something, and this is directly out of First Opinions, in the book of Jimmy. Okay. Is that has nothing to do with inflation. So don't let anyone grab onto that and twist that around. That is just good old-fashioned supply and demand. That's all it is. Okay. Yeah. Does that cause inflation? That's a whole. Now we're into semantics. Okay. It's really down to supply and demand is really what it comes down to. So yes, it's gonna feel inflated, but anytime you have supply and demand, there's only 10 Beanie Babies on the shelf, and there's 100 people in line. You do the math. People are gonna be fighting over it. They're gonna walk out the door and they're gonna sell that Beanie Baby for 6 times what it's worth. Yeah. Right? That's just what it happens. Did it get inflated? Yeah. Why? Because there's 100 people in line and they only have 10. Yep. If you don't know what a Beanie Baby is, look it up. Please don't DM me. But anyway, does that make sense?
Oh, well, even when inflation was running at just 2%, not that long ago.
Right.
Real estate wasn't running at 2%.
Right. Nope. Mm-mm.
Because it's it's a different commodity.
Supply and demand is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. So you can't really look at the overall inflation number versus real estate.
Right. That's 100%, 100% truth. And we're not economists. I just want to throw that disclaimer out there right now. But what he said, in my opinion, again, First Opinions, is very, very accurate. But look, this is just pretty much common sense stuff. You got to ask yourself, and these are some of the questions a really good realtor is going to ask you, or if you're watching this and you're a professional, that maybe you should be asking, is that, hey, it's not the same for everybody. So let's just have a little conversation. I'm just kind of curious. Do you plan on moving? Do you plan on sticking around? Because if you are, do that kind of inflationary trajectory with your clients. you know, or if you're a prospective buyer or a renter and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, at least maybe this podcast episode's going to help you kind of do the math. Because if your income is not tracking with where the, you know, where the rate of, you know, rents are going, then you've got to do something now. The only way to put a stop to that and put your foot in the door is get out of renting and buy. That's the only way you're going to be able to do it. You're going to have to do what all the investors are doing, why they're, you know, if it's interesting when you get here, you know, our office is in San Clemente, California, but we're taking listings all the way up and down the Southland right now, Garden Grove, you know, Seal Beach, all over the place. But as you go up that 5 corridor, right, what used to be known as the San Diego Freeway. Here I am dating myself again, as though my beard already doesn't. But you know, look at all the high-rise structures that are going up.
Yeah,
right.
For sure,
they're going vertical because there's no more room for tracks, so everything's going vertical. You know, dry cleaners, Starbucks, a gym, tennis courts, pool. They make it really comfy and cozy for you.
Sure.
And I actually know somebody on my team for a 1-bedroom who's she told me what they're paying in rent there. It's like crazy, right? Crazy train. Yeah. But guess what? There's no shortage of people that are going to want to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why there's the data that we know. Yeah. It's not turning back.
Well, when I was pulling up even this data on the MLS, one of the things that was very common is the lack of time on the market.
Right.
Because it also gives us in this data when you're pulling up the closed you know, leases, it's telling you how long they've been on the market, and virtually nothing beyond 30 days.
Right.
You know, last year.
Yeah. That's just nuts when you think about it, because it's that's a better indicator than sales, because when you think about it, why that data is important, you guys, okay, is that, and I say you guys, it's kind of saying y'all in the South. It doesn't mean, hey, I'm just talking to the guys. I just want to clarify that. So please don't call me or text me or anything like saying, hey, why are you just talking to the guys? That's not what it is. It's a Southern California way of saying y'all if you're from Alabama or Texas or whatever. Am I going to get heat? I'm going to get heat for saying that too. I left somebody out. Mississippi. Everybody in the South. Y'all. Okay. So anyway, so here, why that's important is this. Is if you want to successfully get a lease, you're going to be competing with a lot of people. Okay. Therefore, you have to have a good resume history on your lease, right? You have to have good referrals. You have to have good credit. Well, here's the thing. You can't just abandon. No good tenant's just going to abandon where they're not sleeping in their car and moving into this $3,200 2-bedroom condo. So they have to give at least 30-day notice. So the shortest time frame that can actually exist for a lease is 30 days. Why? Because they love it the day it comes on the market. They have to give notice that day, 30 days minimum, and to be able to get out of that, and then it stays up, right? Yeah. So, I mean, that's actually wicked fast. That's similar to 1 or 2 days on the market from a real estate sales standpoint.
100%.
So it's very, very interesting. Is again, the data is really, really critical, you guys. So it's where you're getting the data. What you know, always ask people more questions. If you're watching this, if you're a professional and you want to know more about this and where we get our data, how we look at our data, give me a call. Give Steve a call. Reach out to one of our team members. We're happy to help. If you're a consumer and you want to know more, same thing. Just reach out. I promise you won't get dogpiled. We're just here. We're just really just here to help and add value and try to untangle some of the cobwebs that are out there causing confusion. And let me just say this, when we say there's misinformation out there, Steve and I aren't saying that people are doing it maliciously. What we find is most people are doing it just because they don't know any better. They don't know, they haven't done enough transactions, they haven't made enough mistakes, you know, and I have the lion's share of them on the team, you know, over the years of making those mistakes and then having to go back to the drawing board and getting better at that, right? So there is a lot of misinformation out there, but I don't think like I hear people say, oh, they're just being misleading, they're untrustworthy. I'm just saying most of the time I would just say that most people are not doing it on purpose. It's not malicious, and they just don't have the data sources that we have. Right. So when we let's talk about just when people say the median type home. So a single family home,
Yep.
3-bedroom,
Yep.
2-bath in Orange County, because that's what, when you read Orange County Register or whatever, and that's what they typically use.
Yeah.
Right. What did you find there as far as a lease? Did you have time to pull that up, or?
I did. So as far as on the MLS, or you want to go with HUD?
Well, yeah. Let's
So
look at HUD first.
HUD says that the average price was $3,415. This is for they don't separate it from condos to single family homes.
Okay.
So that's just a combination. When you look at the MLS in Orange County here, you're looking at $4,500 a month.
Okay. So
and that's the real experience here.
so that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
That's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single family home.
And that's not dated or time lapsed over. That's just everything that happened in the last 12 months.
Yep.
In Orange County, there was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and they transacted on the MLS. This is the recorded data.
Yeah. And this is the average. This would be
is
the
the
median
average.
price. That was the median price.
Wow.
Yeah. 4,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just crazy
Yeah.
train in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, what
That's $54,000 a year.
$54,000 a year.
Yeah. $162,000 for 3 years.
Wow. So here's the
That's
thing.
a 3-bedroom. Just a 3-bedroom.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is so that's in 3 years, 162.
Yeah.
Let me do the math right here on the podcast. Sorry, you guys, I'm not that sharp. I need to use my little calculator here because now I'm curious. $162,000 times. Okay, so it's more than $500,000 in 10 years.
Oh yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking that's why people like to be landlords that know better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I've got 10 of those, do the math, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's just the income, you guys. That's just the income from them.
Yeah.
That does not include the equity growth of the value of the property. That's just solely the income.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we step back and we say, okay, should I buy or should I rent? These are the things that we just like to have conversations about, basically on what you're trying to achieve, what your goals are, right? Not necessarily how long are you going to live in California or in Orange County, right? It's a matter of how long do you want to continue to pay rent at an increasing rate that even HUD, who's the most conservative out of these numbers based on historical rents, not on annual transactions. And by the way, let me just be really clear. The MLS is way more accurate because it's time stamped. Here's the property. It's not just like mushing everything together over the last 10 years. Even the conservative amount is like 9.3% is what you said?
They're anticipating the increase to
for
be
2023.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just crazy train to me.
Yeah.
It's bananas, right? So I'm thinking, wow.
Yeah.
I know that most of those people, if they knew that, and if you're watching this, and if you're a professional, again, if you're a consumer, I don't know if you know this or not, right? I'm sure your landlords don't want you to know this, but the reality is most people's income is not increasing at the rate of the cost of living.
Not even close.
Right. So let's work together as a community of professionals. If you're watching this, and I know some of you do, so thanks for always tuning in and chiming in and texting us or messaging us and asking questions. But if you're a consumer, let's talk about it. Let's have these conversations because we need to have a plan collectively and together. And so I want you guys to have the information. Steve wants you guys to have the information. That's why we're constantly sharing this because that's one of the biggest objections we get right now. I think I'm just going to go ahead and rent.
Yeah.
And some people, I get it. It's better for you. And some people it is. But I would say most of the people we talk to, it's not the better solution. It's just not. It's pulling your money out of the market and waiting for that, right? Waiting for that market to come back. A lot of people, I'm going to just wait.
Yeah.
Right?
Honestly, the most common thing I hear is when I'm talking to people about the possibility is they don't really know. They haven't really looked into it, and they don't even really know sometimes how to look into it or where to go to find out. They just assume they can't buy a home.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a bummer. And
It
we
is.
have an in-house mortgage company
Yeah.
right here in our office. We have a branch right here in our office with Premier Mortgage. They're fantastic, super patient. They're nurturing tons of our clients right now, having those discussions, investigating that, seeing what's right for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not right, but more times than not, it is the right thing to do. And people are like, oh my gosh.
Well, and there's things we're doing now in this market that we weren't able to do just a year ago.
That's true. That's true.
And
like,
they don't know that either.
Like?
It's like we're getting sellers to provide a credit to the buyers at close of escrow that's buying down the interest rate.
right. Right. So they're not paying 6 3/4 and
Exactly.
7. They're paying some of them that we've just seen recently come across that are in the 5s and low 6s. So it's really, you guys, it's really, really important to understand that interest rates at 5 and 6% are really good historically.
Yeah.
Unrealistic to keep them at 1.5, 2, 3, or 4. You just can't. It's not really. It doesn't last. That lasted too long. I think it made everyone addicted to something that was never going to be sustainable. But the 30-year average is more like 6 3/4, 6.5. And if you were around in the 80s, they were buying properties in 10, 14, 15, 16, 18% before it scaled back. But it took a long time to be able to scale back. I mean, it was pretty high, right? And they were dealing with all that kind of stuff. But it took, I think it was like another 8 years before it actually got back down to the 7s at that point. Mm-hmm. So we think that, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. Well, we're talking about 6% on average right now, 6 1/4%. Renting is 100%. Renting is a 100% loss against your principal, your dollars.
That's what you're paying.
That's what you're paying. It's 100% interest rate. Yeah. And so I just want to encourage you, investigate it. Just investigate it. It's not right for everybody. And the timing isn't always right for everybody. Yeah. But let us help you plan. We're here. We want to help, right? It could be this year.
Absolutely.
It could be next year, right? So, Steve, I really appreciate your time today. I really appreciate the value that you add to the team and encourage all of us in this way. And just, you're probably the only one a little bit ahead of me as far as the time frame on this earth. So I always appreciate your wisdom, but I still think I've made more mistakes than you in that short distance. So again, thanks again. I appreciate you as a sales partner.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And if you're watching this and you have questions and you want to talk a little bit about real estate, you want to talk about our team and a little bit more about the things that we covered here, because there's so much more data that I have here in front of me that Steve has brought up, and just some of the objections and concerns that we're hearing, reach out to us. Yeah. That's what we're here for. We're able to help. So we'll see you next time. Check out some of our other podcasts on the Real Estate Roundtable, and we look forward to seeing you then.
Hey, thanks again for listening to the Real Estate Roundtable. If you'd like to connect with any of the sales partners here on the REIT team, our information is below, and we'd love to chat with you.